12 or 13 feet. As we come around the bell tower, to your left-hand side, where those white frame windows are up there, that's the rear of the King's House. We have a much better view of it a bit later in the tour. But from this position, I can point out 2 places of interest. And you'll see that large window on the top floor up there above the one with the balcony. Now that window there lets light into an impressive room known as the Council Chamber. And it's in that very room up there that Guy Fawkes is interrogated after the failure of the gunpowder plot in November 1605. Guy Fawkes' intentions was to detonate a supply of gunpowder beneath the Houses of Parliament, therefore killing King James I and all his important ministers. Guy Fawkes, he would not give up the names of his co-conspirators. So on the orders of the King, he was taken to the White Tower and he was brutally tortured. Guy Fawkes, he was one of the first men to be placed upon the rack. 36 hours later, he was brought back to the Council Chamber, a completely broken man, and he freely gave up the names of his fellow cutters. Guy Fawkes was then sent to trial, an accusation of treason. He was found guilty and he was condemned to death. Now each year on the 5th of November we celebrate by lighting the combine and setting off fireworks. It's often wrongly believed that Guy Fawkes was burnt at the stake, when actually he was hanged till he was nearly dead. Then he was drawn and his intestines and bodily organs removed whilst he was still alive. Then he was quartered at the Old Palace Yard of Westminster in January 1606. Murdered him, tortured him, chopped the heads off. Now he's managed to cut them in 4. Who wants to hear a love story? See the small window to the left-hand side of the council chamber up there? Now inside that small room there was one Lord Disdale. Now Lord Disdale was waiting his execution up on Tower Hill after the failure of the first Jacobite rebellion. Now his wife and bride of just only a few days was at their family home up in Dumfriesshire, Scotland, when she heard the news of her husband's impending fate. Notwithstanding being in the depths of winter, this brave young woman, she rode all the way down here to London to petition the King for clemency. But this was refused. Having travelled so far and not to be put off, she took up lodgings in the city, and she'd visit her husband every night in that small room to the left of the council chamber. The night before his execution, she visited as usual, except this time she had with her 2 of her maids, and they had with them, hidden underneath their outer garments, a set of ladies' clothing. Once they got into that small room up there, and then persuaded Lord Disdale to dress in this lady's clothing. As he was doing so, the 3 women that came to and from, in and out of that room up there, confusing the young warder sat outside as the amount of women that were actually present. Once dressed as a woman, Lord Disdale exited that room on the arms of his wife's maid. And then over the exit of that room, he exited the Tower of London. Now his wife, a great personal risk to herself, she remained in that small room, talking to her non-existent husband till she had judged that he had enough time to escape his formidable fortunes. She then exited that room. She was weeping copiously. She fell to the feet of the yeoman warders outside and she said, "I've just said farewell to my husband. He is to die tomorrow on Tower Hill. He is currently at his press. I beg you to leave him for an hour." This the yeoman warders agreed. And with great calmness, courage and dignity, Lady Lister made her way out of the Tower of London. She met up with her husband, they both went to Rome, but they both lived very happily for many years. Now, best story? She died in that one, didn't they? And that story, like most of the stories of the Tower, don't have a slight twist. Now, Lord Disdale was an extraordinary tall, large man from out of those times. He stood nearly 6'7", and he had what was back then a very fashionable, big, bright red, long ginger beard. So they asked the 3 young warders sat outside the door of that very room that very night whether or not they were doing the right job or not. When not one of them noticed a 6'7" man with a big long red ginger beard dressed as a woman exited all right in front of them, and they all just let him go. They did not last long as yeoman warders. So we're now stood in front of the most famous, or should I say infamous gate in the world, Traitors' Gate. Built on the orders of King Edward I. Again, rather than travel through the now practices of London, where convoys could be attacked or stolen or put free, Edward, he decided to use the River Thames as a highway. So a high tide boats could pass through these gates in behind me and unload their cargoes in safety. Now these gates were originally known as the Water Gates. Yes, my American friends, we had ours first, all right? And if you look very closely, you'll probably see ours has got a few less leaks in your water. That's probably way too soon. It became known as Traitors' Gate during the Tudor period, No fewer than 3 Queens of England has passed through these gates here. Queen Anne Boleyn, the second wife to King Henry VIII. Queen Catherine Howard, the 5th wife to Henry VIII. And Lady Jane Grey, the uncrowned queen of just only 9 days. Those are more poor unfortunate souls that would have finished their trial at the Palace of Westminster or London Guildhall, travelled down the River Thames, passed through these grim gates here behind me, landed in steps where they met by the yeoman jailer and an escort of yeoman warder. They would pass through the archway of the Bloody Tower behind you to the dungeon or cell to await what fate is in store for them. For most, it's a very short journey out of the tower to their place of execution. They can visit this tower here behind me, looking up them steps there to my left-hand side. That will take you to what's called the medieval palace. Walk through the St Thomas's Tower, over this small bridge here known as Salbridge Bridge, walk through the Upper Wakefield, and that will bring you to the southern battlements. Then get some great pictures of Tower Bridge and the White Tower. Then continue all around the battlements, and you'll exit over on the far side of the complex by the Chapel Royal. So behind you there's the Wakefield Tower. On the 21st of May, 1471, King Henry VI, he was murdered in the Upper Wakefield. Now during his reign, he founded Eton College, Windsor, and King's College, Cambridge. On the anniversary of his death, on the 21st of May each year, the deans of those 2 colleges, they come here to the Tower of London and they lay white lilies for Eton and white roses for Cambridge. The flowers are tied together in a ribbon of the college colour, then they're laid in the place where it's reputed to have been assassinated. Immediately adjacent but no longer connected internally to the Wakefield Tower is the infamous Bloody Tower. Now this was originally called the Garden Tower as it overlooked and it gave access to the Lieutenant's Garden. It became known as the Tower of Blood or the Bloody Tower during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. Pretty much every prisoner that entered into that building there ended up dead. So the locals called it the Bloody Tower and that just stuck. So Walter Raleigh, the intrepid explorer, a man that brought potato and tobacco to his country, he spent 13 years of his life in prison beside the Bloody Tower, eventually executed in 1619 on the orders of King James I. I've now got a sad story. What, the other murders weren't sad? But no, this is truly sad. This is the alleged story of the 2 boy princes, the uncrowned king of the 5th, 8th, 12, and his younger brother, Richard, the Duke of York, aged 9. They were both smothered to death on the top floor of the Bloody Tower whilst they were both here, under the protection of their uncle, Richard, the Duke of Gloucester. The young bodies were bundled down the stairs and quickly buried under a pile of stones. The next day, an unnamed priest, he moved those bodies and he buried them in a secret plot under some stairs on the south side of the White Tower. There they remained undiscovered for 191 years, until workmen, carrying out some work on the White Tower, they discovered a chest. Upon opening this chest, it was seen to contain the skeletal remains of 2 small bodies. Experts, they declared that these were the 2 missing princes, so on the orders of the king, they were taken to Westminster Abbey, re-interned to Innocents Corner, and that's where they both remain to this day. How old are you? 11. How old are you? 8. You've got an uncle called Richard? Earlier in the tour, I brought out the portcullis on Norman Drop Gate and the archway of the Bio, but here on the archway of the Bloody Tower, we've got much bigger portcullis. Now this one's over 700 years old, weighs over 2.5 tons. It took 30 footmen to raise it lower, that portcullis right there. So the next time you see that film, you know the one where Errol Flynn attacks the castle and he holds up with one arm as he's fighting the river? That would never have happened. Inside the Bloody Tower above it though, there's a ship's wings mechanism. Now that was installed by the then Constable of the Tower, the Duke of Wellington. After his many campaigns against Napoleon, he served on many British warships and he saw the power of the windlass. Once that was installed, it still took 6 men to raise it lower it. That archway there, that used to be the main entrance into the tower when the River Thames washed against the base of the inner Ballion Wall. To the left-hand side of the archway, there's a ring attached to the wall. That's just a reminder of how boats would have tied up alongside to offload stores, cargo, and Very shortly, you're going to walk through that archway. As we do, look to your left and your right. You'll see 2 iron bars, and they've got spikes on them. Now, these are called Wellington's chairs. And these were installed by the Iron Dukes to stop the soldiers having a cigarette smoke in their pipes in the dark shadows for those on sentry. Right, you all ready to carry on? Yeah. Okay, mate, don't follow me.
Well, they hadn't